Hi, I'm Dr. Amanda, and this is Freely Shine with Dr. Amanda, where every week we do wellness related videos and content, all geared to helping you grow and to improve your overall body, mind, and spirit. So today's video is actually going to be talking about sleep again. However, what we're going to be talking about instead of the 7 reasons why sleep is important, which if you didn't see, check out the link below to connect you to that video. Today, what we'll be talking about is the top tips for improving your quality and quantity of sleep. Before we get into discussing those top sleep tips, I wanted to go over what some of the signs or symptoms may be that you could be experiencing that may be indicative to the fact that you aren't getting the right quality or quantity of your sleep. So one of the top reasons that one of the top symptoms that you could be experiencing would be daily fatigue or exhaustion. This seems pretty self-explanatory. You're not getting enough sleep. You're going to feel tired the next day. So understanding that if you are experiencing exhaustion during the day, it's not simply because life is tiring or life is stressful, but there could be an underlying implication that you're not getting the right quality or quantity of sleep. The next sign that you could be experiencing that shows that you're not getting proper sleep is that you are dependent on caffeine when you first wake up. If you're someone who says, don't talk to me unless I have my coffee in me, or if you feel like the second you wake up, you need to have that coffee or that caffeine, whether it's green tea or black tea as well, because those are also caffeinated beverages, or if you need to have soda in the afternoon that contains caffeine in order to get you through the day. If you are dependent on caffeine, most likely you are not getting the right quality and quantity of sleep. Now, some people even say, oh, well, I can have coffee right before bed and I sleep just fine. Well, we have to understand that caffeine has a half-life in our system of 6 hours, which means it has a quarter life of 12 hours. So say you have a cup of coffee at noon, by midnight that night, you're still going to have circulating in your system about a quarter of that caffeine. So most people wouldn't take a quarter cup of coffee right before bed, right? And understanding that caffeine, say you're, oh, well, I can fall asleep just fine, but it does, because it's a stimulant, it affects the quality of sleep. So it's going to affect our ability to get into those different stages of sleep, which if you don't remember, we talked about in a previous video. Again, link below if you want a refresher on what those different stages of sleep are important for. Anyways, caffeine as a stimulant, it decreases your body's ability to get into deep stage sleep. And deep stage sleep, again, is where we do all of our repair of the inflammation in our brain. Our lymphatic system is activated to decrease, all the gunk and the buildup in our brain from the day before. And it's also when our growth hormone is stimulated, which allows our body to repair. So if we're having caffeine right before bed, even if you're someone who can still fall asleep, if you're reaching for that cup of coffee again in the morning, likely that it is impacting your overall quality of sleep, even if it's not affecting the quantity of sleep. Other signs that may indicate that you're getting poor sleep is an increase in your appetite, also mood disorders like depression, anxiety. Likely you're getting some sort of inhibition of the quality of your sleep. Even if you are someone that says, oh, I'm depressed and I can sleep for hours and I never want to get out of bed. Well, your body might not actually be getting high quality of sleep just because you're getting so much quantity of sleep. Other things that could be affecting or could mean that your sleep is being affected is having really difficulty remembering things. Poor memory retention is a sign. Also, inability to focus on tasks. and if you're feeling really irritable, or also if you're having issues with stability, if you feel really clumsy all the time, again, another indicator that you actually may be dealing with poor overall quality and or quantity of sleep. So now let's get into those top sleep tips to improve your quality and quantity of sleep. The number one tip for anyone who's trying to increase their sleep or the proper quality and quantity of their sleep is to have a sleep schedule. What that means is our body loves rhythm. And because we have this clock, it's a daily 24-hour clock called the circadian rhythm, it really loves having that that regular frequency of sleep throughout the day. So ideally what that means is you should be waking up and going to bed at the same time every morning and every night. Not simply during the work week, but also on your weekends. So when you set up your sleep schedule, you want to be mindful of, number one, that quantity. So you need to give your body an 8-hour window for sleep. So if you have to be at work, say whatever time, so that you have to get up at 6 a.m. every morning, in order to give your body that 8-hour window, you need to make sure that you're in bed by 10 p.m. This gives you that 8-hour window because ideally we should be sleeping about 7 to 8 hours per night. And obviously we don't all fall asleep right away. So having that 8-hour window gives you that wiggle room so that you get that minimum of 7 hours of sleep per night. Now, like I said, this routine should be standardized for on the weekends as well. So simply because you don't have to be at work on Saturdays does not mean you should stay up later on Friday night and sleep later on Saturday morning, because that's going to cause what we call social jet lag, or jet lag to your body because it's not used to that routine and that rhythm. And then by the time Monday comes around, your routine is completely switched up and your body can't get back on track. So ideally, you should, no matter what day of the week it is, be waking up and going to bed at the same time. So for an example, what that looks like for me is my husband and I, we are typically in bed reading around 6:30 p.m. and I don't really last much later than 7:30 at the latest. A lot of times it's around 7 a.m. that I'm putting my book away and I am ready to snooze. And I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. The weekends, it is exactly the same. We also have dogs, and so they're very routine oriented as well. So they're on our schedule. And so even if I don't set my alarm on the weekends, my body wakes up at 4 a.m. because of my circadian clock. My routine is cycled to that. And if not, the dogs will wake me up anyways. Now, the next important sleep tip, second to that schedule and that routine, is creating a sleep environment. Your bedroom should be a place where sleep happens. Now, our brain associates places with activities that are done there. So, for example, if you're someone who has a really difficult time sleeping, and you sit in bed and you're up all night and you're just sitting there and just like, oh, if I go to bed now, I'll get 2 more hours of sleep. Or if I go to bed now, I'll get an hour and a half of sleep. And you're just ruminating in bed, then your brain is going to start to associate that bed not with where you sleep, but with where you feel stressed about the fact that you're not sleeping. So if you're someone who's having difficulty staying asleep, or you wake up in the middle of the night or falling asleep, if you are not falling asleep, you need to get out of bed, go somewhere else, sit, read a book, whatever it may be, until your body feels significantly sleepy enough. Then you go back to bed and you lay down. You have to start to train your body that your bedroom is where sleep happens. This also means if you're someone who likes to do work right before bed, or answer emails, or deal with any sort of stressful activity, you should leave that outside of your bedroom. You should not be in bed typing away at emails, dealing with work stress, answering work emails, answering work phone calls. You want to separate that from where sleep occurs, because then your brain, again, is going to associate your bed with an area of stress and anxiety. Other things that you can do to make your bedroom a sleep environment is making it extremely comfortable. Ideally, you should avoid having any sort of technology in the bedroom. Really, no TVs in the bedroom at all, because if you're watching movies or the news right before bed, you're sitting in bed, you're watching the news, again, that's going to create stress, and your body is going to associate your bedroom with a place of stress and anxiety. So you really want to create that separation, and your bedroom should be an area of zen and calm where you feel at peace and where you can get the most out of your sleep every single night. Making a sleep environment also means that you should have a completely dark bedroom. Now, if you live in a city, this can be a little bit more difficult. You might need to invest in blackout blinds and things like that. What I always recommend is simply using a sleep mask that helps to really black out the room. The reason being is that stimulation of dark at the end of the day is what helps our body produce a hormone called melatonin, which is your sleep hormone. And it really is significant in allowing our body to get into those deep stages of sleep in the beginning part of the night. Now, melatonin will be inhibited by too much blue light right before bed, because that blue light stimulates the brain the same way as if you're looking at sunlight. So instead of your brain thinking, oh, it's bedtime, I'm getting drowsy, I'm getting ready for bed, it now thinks, oh, it's morning and I need to be alert and ready to go. So as it comes up to bedtime, making sure that you're decreasing your overall exposure to light is going to be super important. So making sure you're using like soft bulbs, don't have every light in the house on, and you're going to want to decrease your exposure to blue light in terms of your use of technology. Cell phone, iPads, tablets, computers, any type of screen, TVs, they're going to stimulate that blue light. They're going to stimulate blue light, and again are going to decrease your body's production of melatonin, and then it's going to inhibit your body's ability to get into those deep stages of sleep. So it can really affect your quality of sleep. So even if you're like, oh, but I watch TV before bed and I can still fall asleep, well, your body may be actually inhibiting its total amount of deep sleep, which again, that's a super important stage for your overall health and repair. So decreasing body inflammation and increasing growth hormone and tissue repair. You really want to have that deep sleep. Slopping off your deep sleep is not going to be good for your overall mental health and physical health. If you are someone who has to be on a device right before bed, then I would recommend investing in blue light blocking glasses. And it's also probably not a bad thing to use during the day. If you're getting constant exposure to blue light, can be really detrimental to your overall brain health. So investing in those glasses can be really helpful. Or another thing you can do is simply create a no tech before bedtime rule. So my husband and I, typically we put our phones in a completely different location than our bedroom. So when we go down for bed, we don't even have any cell phones or any devices in that bed with us. So we won't have that exposure to blue light, and we only are reading our books by soft light. And again, we get relatively drowsy, and the second we do, the lights go off. So decreasing that overall tech use right before bed is going to impact your melatonin hormone, and it also will decrease your overall stress. Other tips that are going to be important in terms of helping your overall improvement of sleep hygiene is going to be making sure that you nap smartly. For those of us who enjoy napping, you really don't want to nap for longer than 20 to 30 minutes. Power naps can be great, Anything longer than that, what's going to happen is there's this chemical that builds up during the day that creates sleepiness. It's called adenosine. And so if you nap for too long, you're basically going to be decreasing that amount of adenosine. It's like a pressure release valve. So that adenosine will start to decrease so that when you go to bed later at night, you won't have as much of that sleepiness chemical built up inside you, so you won't necessarily be as sleepy, and it may decrease your body's ability to get into those early stages of sleep or to fall asleep. Exercise during the day is extremely beneficial for getting your body primed and ready for sleep later that night. You do want to make sure that you don't exercise too close to bedtime, because it can increase your adrenaline, which again, when you have adrenaline pumping through you, you're all pumped up and excited. You're not going to be able to fall asleep. Your body's not in that rest and relax mode. Other tools you want to be mindful of, or other things that you want to be mindful of, is how late you're eating. You should not be eating within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime, because then your body is going to be focused on digestion, and it can really distract your system from getting into that rest mode. So you really do want to avoid too large of meals late at night. You want to avoid late night snacking as well, because again, that's going to affect your body's ability to get into those different stages of sleep. You also want to make sure that you're managing your overall stress levels in the day, because sometimes for those of us who have difficulty falling asleep, it can be because you're ruminating on the stressful events that you've been dealing with earlier in the day, and you just simply can't turn your brain off. So making sure that you're doing other things, whether it's exercise, meditation, having healthy conversations with loved ones, whatever it may be, to help your body manage that overall stress so that you don't enter into that cycle of rumination right before bedtime where you simply can't fall asleep. The next thing I want to talk about is alcohol. Consuming alcohol late in the evenings or before bedtime. We've probably all heard of that nightcap. Unfortunately, alcohol does decrease your REM sleep. And we've talked about REM sleep before and how important it is for your body's overall management of stress from the day before. So decreasing your REM sleep can be really detrimental long term. So even though you might be able to fall asleep if you had a glass of wine with dinner, it does not mean that your body's going to get into that high quality of sleep, which again, if you're not getting into that REM sleep, your body isn't necessarily coping with the psychological stresses that you've been dealing with. And interestingly enough, alcoholics, if they've been consuming alcohol regularly, what happens is they start to hallucinate during the day. Their body actually seeks that REM cycle while they're awake, those hallucinations. The same thing happens with people who don't or postpone falling asleep. So like ultra marathon runners who run 100 miles at a time, their body is staying up for long periods of time, right, with very little sleep. And what happens is towards the end of the race, they actually start hallucinating because their body is seeking that REM sleep, which again, REM, we still don't fully understand the complete reason why it's so important, but it is so important that if we avoid sleeping, it happens in our waking moments. So we start to hallucinate while we're still awake because our body needs that REM in order for us to process the psychological stress that we're dealing with on a daily basis. Now, some other things that I want to touch on is some oils or essential oils that you can use that can help with sleep. One of my favorites is diffusing lavender oil into the air. Again, this can really help create that calm and peaceful environment and can be really beneficial for sleep. And the other thing I want to mention too is if you're someone who can fall asleep, but then around 2:30 you wake up and you can't fall back asleep, that could mean that you have an issue with your adrenal gland. It's called adrenal fatigue. You're experiencing too much stress during the day, and around that 2 o'clock hour, that's when, according to our circadian rhythm, that adrenal function is stimulated. So if you're waking up at that hour every single night, it could mean that you're dealing with a little adrenal fatigue, and doing things to help support your adrenal glands. There's different supplements, nutrition that could be important for you in order to help improve that overall quality of sleep, so that not only you can get asleep, but stay asleep throughout the later stages of the night. Now, hopefully these tips were beneficial and you can start implementing them right away to improve your quality and quantity of sleep. I really appreciate you making it this far in the video. Congratulations. If this was of interest to you, please like and feel free to subscribe to get updated information on our future wellness content. I really appreciate you joining, and if you have any comments or are there any topics that you want me to expand upon, please feel free to comment below. I look forward to seeing you in the future, and hopefully you leave from here and you shine on.